Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. It's been quite a week in European football, hasn't it, just Henry Hill?
Oh, we were just saying before we went on, I can't remember a better sort of run of games. You know, you watch football sometimes and you semi-question if you're actually enjoying it because games just roll on, they're not that interesting. And then Spain versus Croatia pops up, France versus Switzerland, and then obviously England, Germany had that different kind of edge to it. But it's just, I can't remember a better few days of just watching football for pure excitement, quality, goals, just everything going on. The fact we saw two teams come back from 3-1 down with 10 minutes to go is unprecedented. It was unbelievable. And then England, Germany at Wembley. You know, what's not to love about that? So yeah, I've been absolutely buzzing the last few days. I love football again, official.
Yes,
good man. Yeah, I've been saying on Twitter for the last few days, I think this is by far the best international tournament I can ever remember. I sort of gained consciousness of football around the 2002 World Cup. I just can't remember drama like this. And if the quarterfinals continue at this rate, I just think it will go absolutely clear in terms of moments, goals, storylines. I think it's had it all. Euro 2020, one to remember for sure. I mean, McCubs, you must be loving Euro 2020, but also Jadon Sancho, he's signed, it's done.
Love it. What a couple of days, beating Germany at Wembley, and then Jadon Sancho confirmed last night after Marcus Rashford may or may not have been hacked, confirming it already on Twitter. Fantastic news. Just happy that it's over, really. Like it's a weird one because I was so buzzing about it last summer that it didn't happen, and then this summer it's kind of been like it's felt inevitable, but it's kind of like the excitement kind of I've already kind of had that like excitement over him. But yeah, it's going to be. I just can't wait to see him and Rashford and Greenwood lining up together at points next season. It's going to be so much fun. But like it's been such a beside that though, echo you guys completely, absolutely have fallen back in love with the beautiful game this week. Like I was celebrating Switzerland's equaliser against France in the last minute as if it was England. Like I was jumping around the room, and then like obviously the Germany game was very emotional. I was watching. I genuinely like had tears in my eyes watching. Like I was watching like some, a few kind of YouTubers, kind of vlogs of being at Wembley and whatnot. And obviously we had like Joe and Dave Jackson were there as well, weren't they? But just like actually watching the celebrations after like the Sterling goal and stuff, I genuinely got so emotional just because it was, after the year that everyone's had, it's just very touching to see that kind of collective euphoria in a stadium, like in a game like that with everything around it, Southgate, Sterling, Kane, like just so many stories. And just incredibly happy about it.
Absolutely, it truly was really, really special. And we've got a special offer for you today, guys, because Manscaped, our friends over at Manscaped, are sponsoring the next 2 episodes of Continental Club, which we are delighted about. So obviously you know about Manscaped, they've been sponsoring Winners and Losers, Sunday Vibes at times as well, and you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code EuroFootballDaily at manscaped.com. So that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code EuroFootballDaily. Hit the target, shore up your D this Euros with Manscaped. Now, Henry, McCubs hasn't quite arrived yet, but we've both been sent a magnificent care package by Manscaped, haven't we? What have you made of the care package?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I couldn't be happier. Genuinely. So obviously I've got the lawnmower trimmer, I've got the nose trimmer as well, which I've been looking for a while. And then there's aftershave, there's ball deodorant, ball conditioner, all things I didn't really realise I needed. It all comes. There's a lovely kind of case that comes in as well, and we've got a pair of boxes and a t-shirt. Genuinely, this is brilliant. It's the kind of thing where I don't think you realise how useful it is until you've actually got it, if that makes sense. And it's great. It's completed my morning preparations, I think. But yeah,
love it. Yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I've actually been looking for a cologne for a number of years. No joke. I tried to get Grace to give it to me for Christmas. Couldn't find one, but I've actually been loving the Manscaped one, and she likes it too, and my housemates do as well. It's had great reviews whenever I've used it. Planning on spraying myself on for the Ukraine game on Saturday as well. So if I bump into any of you guys, you viewers or McCubs or Henry, have a sniff. It's all good. I absolutely, I'm loving Manscaped right now. And as I say, you can get 20% off and free shipping using the code EuroFootballDaily at manscaped.com. Now, let's get stuck into the episode, because with the Euros in full swing, I feel like everyone's seen a lot of Euros content, and the transfer season is ticking along behind us. There's been some great deals, but there's been some concerning rumours as well, at least in our opinion. So today we wanted to break down three main transfers that your club should avoid this summer. And our first suggestion came in from @Harold_Thake, or T Hake, I think he actually likes it, and it's Hector Bellerin. Henry, what's going on with Hector Bellerin? Because he's got a few offers on the table.
Interesting one, this one, isn't it? So he's obviously expected to leave Arsenal this summer after 10 years at the club. I feel like we've been saying this for a number of seasons now. It looks like he's veering towards an exit, and he obviously came in from the La Masia Academy in Barcelona. He's been an absolutely fantastic servant for club. He's racked up 239 appearances for them as well, winning 3 FA Cups and being named in the 2015-16 PFA Team of the Year. He also, I think, off the pitch as well, he's been a bit of a shining light for a lot of young professionals. I think he's involved with Forest Green Rovers as well, and there's lots of charitable causes which he's been sort of fronting as a footballer. So he's sort of an outstanding individual representative for Arsenal. But it hasn't been that easy for him. He had 3 outstanding campaigns between 2015-16, 17-18 in the final years of Arsene Wenger. And then he's had a torrid time of injuries since. Missed 39 games in 18-19 and 11 in 19-20. Fortunately, he was fully fit in 2021, making 35 appearances in all competitions. That's 25 in the Premier League. But, I mean, towards the end of the season, you could kind of tell that Arteta wasn't 100% sure on him. He lost his place to Cedric Suarez a little bit, and Callum Chambers was appearing at right back ahead of him at points. And he only started 2 of his final 13 games at the club. And I think, having been injured a lot and maybe looked like he was going to leave, this looks to be almost the final nail in the coffin there as well, especially with Maitland-Niles returning to the club, who can play at right back. Whether or not he'll want to is another matter entirely. And Ben White, it looks like he's probably going to join. He's going to play there, but I imagine he'll be in at centre-back there. And I think this might be, if Arsenal are looking to sort of build a little bit of a war chest to continue their sort of surprising list of targets. We've seen Locatelli being linked, etc. And this Ben White deal looks to be about the £50 million mark. Then I think maybe it could be time for Hector Bellerin to certainly move on. But what's interesting is the kind of destinations that he's been linked with so far, isn't it? I mean, PSG, for a number of years, they've been looking to chase him as well, but obviously looks like they're going to go for Achraf Hakimi instead, which makes complete sense. But then Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Villarreal, these are all sort of big clubs who could be interested for about the €20 million mark there. The Villarreal, I think, would make more sense of those three. But to see Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid sort of quite interested in Bellerin, I'm a bit surprised at that. If we look at some of his numbers, he doesn't really seem to be the same player that sort of burst onto the scene in 2015-16, 17-18. He's been dribbled past 1.2 times per 90. It never used to be above 0.8. He completes just 45% of his dribbles last season. That's down from 58% in 19-20. And, just 0.9 key passes per 90. That was a slight improvement on the 0.2 he managed the season prior, but down on the 1 he routinely managed under Wenger. Obviously, slight details here. But the point is, he's been injured. He's obviously suffered those consistent injuries. It looks to have taken a toll on him physically, and I don't think he is the same player that we sort of all knew and loved for a few seasons, certainly. And I just don't think that he's a top level signing anymore, in my opinion. I think he's a very good squad player. I think he could go to a very good Europa League club, but I don't necessarily believe that Champions League is necessary for him. He's nowhere near the Spanish squad at the moment. But I'd be interested to hear what you guys think on this. I personally, this maybe sounds like I'm being really harsh on him. I'll put it this way: if he went to one of these clubs, then fair enough. But I just think he's not a guaranteed starter or necessarily a game changer wherever he goes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think I'd be much keener on him going to Atletico Madrid than Inter Milan, just because he's so massively opposed to Achraf Hakimi in terms of his skill set, McCubs. And if Simone Inzaghi is trying to persist with that 5 at the back and looking for a flying wing back, it doesn't really feel like Bellerin's that player anymore. Do you agree with that?
No, I think, like you say, like Henry was saying, like physically he's just not really up to that kind of role anymore. I don't think he's got the kind of the pace to be able to, fly forwards, fly backwards, however 10, 15 times a match, or however many times it's kind of required of a right wing back. So yeah, I feel like almost he needs to adapt his game, it's hard to do at that stage of your career, but like work on his delivery, putting early crosses into the box, etc., in terms of maximising his attacking output. But yeah, he just isn't. He just, considering he was, courted by, Barcelona when Luis Enrique was at the club, and where they were still very much riding the wave of the Guardiola era, and really challenging for the Champions League, winning the treble and whatnot. Like, it's quite it is quite a decline in that sense. So yeah, it's a shame for him. But yeah, injuries just haven't gone his way. But yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think he's he's not cut out for a kind of European titan anymore.
Yeah, some Arsenal fans will probably listen to this and say that maybe it's down to the system, that with Kieran Tierney being so attacky on the left-hand side, maybe it's not Bellerin's role to fly forward. But I'm slightly sceptical over that. I thought when Callum Chambers played at points last season, I remember that comeback against West Ham, I believe it was, when it finished 3-3, I think it was. Callum Chambers was one of the best players on the pitch, rampaging forward from right back, and I just didn't see that enough from Bellerin last season. So we're sort of putting Bellerin down as an underwhelming signing for at least Inter Milan. McCubs, let's move on to our next player in Miralem Pjanic, which was suggested by Stuart A. Kirk, who had quite simply a disastrous season last year.
Yeah, it's basically a sabbatical, wasn't it, as you said before we started shooting. And obviously, cost Barcelona 7.5 million euros in wages alone. Just kind of one of the final calamitous decisions of the Josep Bartomeu era. It just begs belief, like how this deal happened, how the club thought that this was the way to go about balancing the books at a time when things around the pandemic were still so incredibly uncertain. To have a deal like that for a 30-year-old Miralem Pjanic, he's now 31. But apparently he's still not short of suitors this summer, and pretty top level ones as well. Obviously, Juventus have been linked with him again, and apparently that's his preferred destination. I'm not surprised by that. Obviously, he played some of the best football of his career under Allegri at Juve, and obviously Allegri's back at the club now. So yeah, not surprised by that at all. But apparently Chelsea and PSG, who have also been linked with him in seasons past, are also very interested. So yeah, I think with Juve, Locatelli looks like a likely deal, doesn't it? So I don't think they're going to be needing any more midfield reinforcements there. I think Locatelli would be an excellent signing for them. Hopefully that will mean that a player like Bentancur can get freed up again. And Rabiot as well. I think that will be a very strong midfield three for them. Chelsea, I cannot understand why they would want him at this point. Like, I think I think they do in the long term need midfielders, but I don't think Pjanic at this point does anything that Jorginho, Kovacic or Kante can't. And obviously, yeah, his age profile just is completely out of keeping with what kind of Chelsea's overall transfer strategy has looked like in the last few years. So I can't see that happening. And yeah, with PSG again, like what does Pjanic offer that Verratti doesn't? What does he offer that Gini Wijnaldum can't do? So yeah, another odd one there. I think that's the thing. I don't really see where he naturally fits in at any club, or any top club at least, and expects to start most games. Obviously, yeah, he was a crucial component of Juve's kind of late dominance of Serie A under Allegri. He won 4 league titles, he won 2 Coppas Italia. He was named in the team of the year for 4 consecutive seasons between 15-16 and 18-19, including his final season at Roma. So he was superb in Serie A. No getting around that. One of the best midfielders in Europe at one point. But yeah, just really didn't work out for him at Barca, did it? It was very much, an exercise in balancing the books. Although, he does have the technical qualities to be able to play in the Barcelona midfield three. There's no doubt about that. But Koeman clearly never wanted him. He made just 19 league appearances, just 6 starts. That amounted to 623 league minutes, the 20th most minutes in the squad. Only played 20 minutes of league football from the 27th of February. So yeah, it's really just like not happened for him at all this season. That kind of coincided, I guess, with Koeman kind of switching it up and using De Jong in a back three. Obviously, Pedri had a huge season. Ricky Puig couldn't even get in the side. So there was obviously a lot of competition in that midfield. But for a player like Pjanic, as experienced as Pjanic, to be completely overlooked in favour of, like an 18-year-old like Pedri, who of course had an amazing season, but even like kind of later on, like a player like Mariba as well, like it kind of goes to show just how little he was thought of in this Barcelona setup. But yeah, like I said, Chelsea doesn't really make sense to me. PSG perhaps makes a little more sense, but again, I just wouldn't be focusing on that. They've already got Wijnaldum in. I think their priority now has to be potentially another centre-back. Obviously, Achraf Hakimi's coming in as well. So yeah, those clubs don't really make sense. I think if anything, Juve would make a little more sense, but with Locatelli coming in, I think that would shut that door as well. So yeah, I'd be interested to know, do you guys have any clubs that you think maybe would suit him best?
Oh, Henry, is anyone springing to mind? No one's immediately springing to mind for me.
Oh, I'd like to see him go. Actually, yeah, a French side, maybe a Champions League French side would be pretty good there. I'd like to see, off the top of my head, when you were talking, I was thinking if like someone like Leicester could get him for a season-long loan, that's the kind of thing that I'd like to see. Just go sort of a top-level English club and maybe just prove his worth a little bit, because, like you said, he's been coasting for last year. I think it should be said, like he did have a lot of creative potential, which I think could have been useful for Barcelona if used in the right way. I just don't think, like you said, the rise of Pedri just really stunted his ability to show exactly what he could do. So I think, and as you said, he's been in the Serie A team this season 4 times, so I think it's unfair to write this off. It's just the money involved, it's just a bit of a tricky one. I'd like to see him go on loan maybe to a club for a year, maybe just sort of have a bit of hubris and take a step down and then just prove his worth and then see if he can get himself another big contract to finish out his career somewhere.
Yeah, I think back to Serie A. I like it. I don't think it's going to happen because, Roma look like they're going beyond that with Xhaka coming in, Lorenzo Pellegrini's not leaving, etc. So you couldn't play Pjanic probably as a 10 or in midfield, but he worked so well at Roma. Maybe a club like Sassuolo as well. I know it's quite not the standing he's used to as well, and he probably doesn't fit their style of play with their sort of rapid vertical sort of attacks, as it were. But he'd be a great controlling midfielder at the base of that midfield if Locatelli left. So I'd love to see him go back to Serie A. But let's park Pjanic and his disastrous year at Barcelona and move on to the third player who was suggested by @BraveHus24, which is Ronaldo to PSG. Now, I'm going to keep this relatively brief because we've talked about Ronaldo on numerous shows. Tutto Sport and Foot Mercato claim that a move to PSG isn't outside the realms of possibility. The same reports claim that PSG are still going for Paul Pogba, however, which looks really unlikely. I don't see how they're going to get both, or to be honest, either of them. I think their priority will probably be retaining Kylian Mbappe, as it has been for a number of months. And I just don't think they're going to bring in Ronaldo or Pogba, to be totally honest. But Ronaldo, there's no going away from it. He has been immense for Juve, at least in terms of stats. 101 goals in 133 games, 2 league titles, 1 Coppa Italia. But his wages are just completely unsustainable for a club going through a massive financial crisis. I think it was revealed this week that they've lost £300 million during the pandemic. Interestingly enough, that was the amount of money they were guaranteed by entering the European Super League. So you can see why they wanted to go for that, for purely selfish reasons, of course. But yeah, he's on €31 million per year. Their next highest earner is Dalot on €8 million per year, which just goes to show the gulf in wages amongst that squad. Dybala's then the next on 7.3 from what I read, and Ramsey and Rabiot are on 7 million. So it just goes to show that Juve's top earners, Ramsey, Rabiot and Dybala, weren't really used effectively last year. De Ligt hasn't probably delivered quite as much as he should have in a Juventus shirt just yet. I think he's still going to be a great signing, but maybe he hasn't quite hit his Ajax heights just yet. So there's question marks surrounding all of Juve's top earners. So Ronaldo to PSG, I just don't think it's worth it at this time for them. Even though the idea of a Neymar, Mbappe, Ronaldo front three is a marketing specialist's dream. I just don't think it's the right idea for them on the pitch right now. Another suggestion from Bravehouse24 was Nuno to Spurs. I don't think this is a particularly good appointment, but at this stage, they kind of had to get someone in. I don't think, the way it ended at Wolves, albeit after 2 very challenging seasons, he obviously wasn't allowed to go back and see his family in Portugal at points. They had that enormous season in 2019-20 where I think they played close to 60 games with they used about 18 players in the Premier League, so the squad were absolutely knackered. Didn't get a pre-season, went straight into another season and finished 13th. So all in all, it was the right time for him to leave Wolves. He clearly wasn't Spurs' first choice. There's clearly some concerns about the style of play he likes to implement, etc. And, there are higher caliber, more romantic options that they looked at as well. But at this stage, with pre-season starting in a couple of weeks, I think, maybe on the 14th, they had to get someone in. So Nuno to Spurs is done. The next one I wanted to throw to you, McCubs, which is Diogo Dalot to AC Milan, coming in from @LordPotato. Yeah. What do you think of Diogo Dalot? Do you think he's got a future at Man United? He obviously played some couple of games for Portugal in Euro 2020.
I don't think he's got a future at United, unfortunately. I just think, aside from in the first few months of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's career, I don't think he's ever really been looked upon favourably by the United manager. So yeah, I see this happening. I think he wasn't a regular starter for Milan last year, but I think he did impress at points when he did play. And I think he enjoys himself there as well. So yeah, I think that's a good move. I think that's a good move for the player going to Milan. I think this Milan team is still building towards something. Obviously, the second half of the last season was very disappointing for them, but they are still building towards something. And I think if they can secure kind of 2 or 3 solid signings this summer, I think they will have a shout again with of the Serie A title.
Oh, nice one. Okay, the final one, just quickly to mention, Henry, Matteo Guendouzi to Marseille, coming in from @Iceman1203. What do you make of Matteo Guendouzi? Weird player.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or really weird attitude, maybe, is what I need to say.
Yeah, it did not work out Hertha Berlin. Maybe Jorge Sampaoli, with that kind of credibility, I think maybe he could get the best out of him. And maybe in that Stade de Velodrome environment, that could be the kind of place to push him up. I mean, Marseille are an interesting club. The Incham deal was a disaster, obviously led to Villas-Boas going. He played less than 200 minutes last year. If we look, they've just spent 25 million euros on Gerson from Flamengo, who's not someone I particularly know something about. Apparently they're going to spend 15 million on Pau Lopez, the Roma goalkeeper, who's been a bit hit and miss. And also it looks like they're going in for Under as well, Cengiz Under, which that could work out. Maybe it's the right move for him. So their transfer policy in general seems a bit warped, and I think the Guendouzi deal is as much part of that too. He's just difficult. He just seems problematic, and I think Arsenal can't wait to get him off their books permanently. Maybe Marseille and everything that comes with it could be the right place for him, but I'm not going to pass opinion on this until something potentially goes wrong.
Fair enough. Yeah, Pau Lopez, despite being my football lookalike, supposedly, not equally talented as me. Not particularly talented. Anyway, guys, those are our transfers to avoid this summer. What did you make of the Bellerin, Pjanic, Ronaldo discussions? Get your thoughts in the comments down below. And let's move on to our big match preview, because it's a bloody big one. So they are all massive games this weekend. Obviously, we kick off today with Switzerland versus Spain at 5 p.m. Hopefully, Spain continue their scoring record that has seen them score 10 goals in their last 2 games. But Switzerland, going to be tough opposition as well. Then we have Belgium versus Italy at 8 p.m. Arguably the tie of the weekend in terms of 2 most evenly matched sides. Tomorrow, we've got the Czech Republic versus Denmark at 5 p.m. The story of the sort of underdogs, and then Ukraine versus England to follow at 8 p.m, which I'm very excited about. I'll be wearing my Manscaped cologne for that one. It probably therefore makes sense to talk about the big one on Saturday, give this video a little bit more relevancy for as long as possible. So guys, we're going to talk about England versus Ukraine, and anyone watching from abroad, if we get a little bit overexcited in this segment, just enjoy it. We don't actually think it's coming home. Just let us have our moment. We beat Germany. We never beat Germany. But Henry, let's start with our opponents on the weekend, Ukraine, because they went through a hell of a game against Sweden.
So, Dude, what do you mean you don't think It's coming home.
Well,
the
only thing is, whenever we make a joke about it, do you not get constant tweets being like, "Oh, you're all so arrogant," and the English are the worst. Like you're all getting overexcited because you beat Germany, just because you write it's coming home on Twitter or whatever. You're just like, just don't take it so seriously, everyone.
It's a sarcastic song about sort of eternal heartbreak. Really. That's the point of it. It's just about sort of endless disappointment. Like if you watch the music video. With the lightning seeds, that's what it's all about.
I even got someone from Canada message me and was like, "Was it coming home when Chelsea won the Champions League?" And I was like, "No, you've misunderstood. Like, it's not when any English team wins a competition."
I think my favourite time I've ever sung "It's Coming Home" was after we beat Tunisia at the start, the first game of that 2018 World Cup, when no one,
with a really ugly goal,
we had a hope in hell of making the semis even of that World Cup, and it was like, yeah, we've beaten Tunisia. It's coming home, like.
With an ugly back post header from Harry Kane. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Anyway, Henry, Ukraine. What's going on with Ukraine?
I'll try and talk about them from a sort of an equal standpoint as possible. England are heavy favourites. Let's not get it twisted here against Ukraine. But fair play to them. Although they finished third in their group, they're the luckiest team to probably progress because they got 3 points from their possible 9, losing 3-2 to the Netherlands. Bit of a boring 1-0 loss to Austria as well. But fair play to Ukraine. They took their moment in Glasgow. Zinchenko got on the score sheet finally. I absolutely loved his driving volley. Obviously, Forsberg equalised, but then right in the dying moments, Dovbyk scored his first goal for his country, getting on a header at the near post. Nothing Olsen could do about that one, really. And you know what? They're through, and I heard on the radio the Ukrainian ambassador in the UK. He was just saying how happy they are to be there, how happy they're just enjoying the moment, and that's kind of what it's all about. They've been all over the shop. They've been all over the shop, haven't they? They've been in Amsterdam, Bucharest, now Glasgow, off to Rome, and that maybe could be an advantage. England have obviously just been sat put in in Wembley the whole time. Now they have to go on the roads. Not going to be many English fans there. I'm not quite sure what the situation is for the Ukrainians, but they're used to this process by now, and they've got nothing to lose going into this game. Against Sweden, it was kind of everything I think we assumed it would be. It's fairly edgy. Ukraine had 54% possession, 15 shots on target, with 4 on target, to 13 and 3 for Sweden, and Sweden actually edged it on XG 1.1 to 0.8. If we look at kind of what the threat they're going to bring into this game. I mean, Zinchenko was brilliant in the last game. 4 tackles and interceptions, 2 aerial duel wins, 1 dribble, 1 key pass, and he got his goal and assist as well. I think that was his best game of the tournament. Like Harry Kane, maybe this could be sort of the shake-up moment that he needs to sort of press on in this game so far, because he hasn't been that impressive, really. Yarmolenko was also class, 3 key passes, 2 shots, and 1 assist. He's been their kind of talismanic figure throughout this whole process. Certainly now Yaremchuk has sort of gone missing recently. Even like Malinovsky, I think, started on the bench. He came on at the 61st minute. 1 tackle, 1 dribble, 1 key pass, 3 shots. I mean, the thing is, Ukraine obviously do have weapons, which they can hurt you with, but England haven't conceded a goal in this tournament so far, and I would be amazed if Ukraine are the ones to do that, bar sort of a wonder strike from Yarmolenko, because every time I've seen them, I watched them against Austria. They're obviously exciting against the Netherlands, but the Netherlands have been showed to be maybe a bit more flaky than perhaps first perceived in the group stages. But I think against a solid defence, Ukraine do struggle to break down the opposition. I don't want England to underestimate the Ukrainians. I want them to go with a strong lineup. I want them to really take the game to them, because I think of our creativity that we have going forward, we should be able to get the better of their defence. But Ukraine, they've got a great team spirit. I think we said in previous Continental clubs, their squad is basically made up of Dynamo Kiev players and Shakhtar Donetsk players. So they all know each other. They're just enjoying this process. They're happy to be here, and that makes them a very dangerous side. They'll have been inspired by some of the other games they saw over the past few weeks. And yeah, England shouldn't underestimate them, but I really hope that they've got kind of the skill set and the kind of tactical know-how to get the job done. Because if there's one thing the Southgate side are exhibiting unbelievably well at the moment, it's just sort of a professionalism and a pragmatism to sort of get through results, and I hope that's going to be the same against Ukraine.
Yeah, what I'm praying for is, you remember in the last 16, obviously in the World Cup, we beat Colombia on penalties, and then we just had that glorious quarter-final against Sweden where it wasn't particularly nerve-wracking, 1-2-0. I'm just kind of praying that we have a repeat of that on Saturday. It could be a really, really special day. I mean, McCubs, the big question, I suppose, facing Southgate is, Obviously, he switched to a 5 at the back for the Germans, which probably made sense given that they were also in that formation. But Ukraine were playing it as well the other night. Do you want Southgate to persist with this formation, or would you rather see him, sub out one of the full-backs and put on another attacking player?
I think I would probably revert back to a 4-2-3-1. I was actually amazed, like all the post-match reaction, everyone was like, didn't back him with the 3-4-3. I thought, like, my impression was, going into that Germany game, that 3-4-3 seemed like the sensible thing to do, and I kind of thought that a lot of people were fairly on board with that, but clearly not. But I think it probably would be. I think again, it could be tempting to stick with that system because it worked so well, and I think in particular Trippier and Shaw really grew into that game. They were really pinned back in those first 10 minutes, but really grew into that game, and I kind of actually forgot that Shaw was up against Kimmich by the end. It just didn't feel like that. He had so much space to roam. But I think in this game, like Ukraine, they played in that system, but and they do rely on their wing backs a lot. But I don't think it's necessarily I don't think it's their way of breaking down a team in the way that it had been Germany's in this tournament. Like you said, I think Yarmolenko has probably been their key danger, hasn't he? Zinchenko, I guess, looks better, playing a bit wider than he has done so far in this competition against Sweden. But yeah, I think the Sweden team would have been a tougher proposition in this quarterfinal. I think they have actually improved quite a bit since the last World Cup. But I digress. Yeah, I would go for a 4-2-3-1. I don't know who I'd pick as that number 10. I'm really keen to see Jack Grealish go back in there because I was so impressed with him in that first half against the Czech Republic. But obviously Mason Mount holds a lot of stock with Southgate, and he'll have been back with the team for a number of days now, and he's very trusted, obviously. But I do just think Grealish is a little bit more fun in that position, and I know we got a bit of hate in the comments last week for maybe being a little bit harsh on Mount, but I think since the Croatia game, I don't think we've really seen the best of him. I think he was kind of well off the top of his game against Scotland, and we're not used to seeing that. We're used to seeing him being such a consistently brilliant player, especially for Chelsea over the last year. But I think I would love to see Grealish in that number 10 role. I think Sterling especially, and I think Saka as well, have done enough in the last two games for them to be kind of surefire starters from here on in, if I'm honest. I thought Saka was excellent in that first half. Sterling was excellent throughout the Germany game. So I think that's what I'd like to see. I don't know whether Southgate will be bold enough to line up with those three in such a big game. Let's remember, this is still a huge game, and Ukraine are there to be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
But I am just in general really looking forward to this quarterfinals, because I was saying to my mate when we were watching the early kind of last 16 games, that like we were being so entertained, but I kind of feel like my memory of these kind of tournaments is that like the last 16 is always completely mad, and then it gets to the quarterfinal and suddenly it becomes an incredibly boring tournament because all the big boys are there. They're all incredibly focused on primarily not conceding, and they turn into incredibly cagey affairs and kind of games that, like, say from the neutral standpoint, a little bit like the England-Germany game, not a huge amount to comment on, and incredibly tactical. But because there are so many underdogs have made it this far, there are still a number of teams who really have nothing to lose and are just going to hopefully go out there and really try and take games to the opposition. So I'll be interested to see how Ukraine play. I imagine they probably will sit back a bit, but probably not as much as Sweden would have. I feel like England aren't going to be as frustrated as they would have been against that Sweden defence. So I'm hoping it will be a really entertaining game.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweden showed in that game against Spain, where I think they had 15% possession, that they were just not bothered at all about dominating the ball, even having any territorial sort of power. They were just purely concerned on the result, and ultimately that result saw them top the group in the end. So Sweden shouldn't have been taken lightly if we were playing them. Ukraine as well, I really don't think we should underestimate them as well. I think Malinovsky is an excellent player as well. I was really surprised when he didn't start against Sweden. I don't know whether he's carrying a knock or something, but his long-range shooting is something England should 100% be, wary of. But I'm with you. I'd like to see a change to 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. I'm almost tempted to carry on using Grealish as an impact sub just because he's so lethal against tired defences from 65 minutes. And I'd rather see him come onto the pitch at 65 minutes than Mason Mount, if that makes sense. And games are decided in that final 25-30 minutes. And that's when, you need your, finishers. I mean, the England rugby team call them finishers for that exact reason. They don't necessarily always start with their best players. But maybe that's a bit of a warped thinking. But I think on this game, I'm just not going to overthink it. I'm not going to try and second-guess Southgate. I'm not going to try and doubt him. I think he's earned the right to do whatever he wants now, Southgate, for at least a game or two. If England lose this quarter-final, it will be, Southgate out again. That's just how it works. If they lose the semi-final against Czech Republic or Denmark, he'll come in for heavy criticism. But for now, I think almost every decision he's made in this tournament has kind of come off. And people will say, oh, what's going on with Jadon Sancho? Maybe he just hasn't trained as well as Bukayo Saka. Maybe it's just as simple as that. He might be one of the most talented, players that this country has produced since Wayne Rooney, along with probably Phil Foden. But if he's not in the right headspace and hasn't trained as well, then Southgate, the guy on the ground, we've just got to kind of back him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But if you want some head-to-head stats, I'll give them to you now. So England have played Ukraine 7 times since the year 2000. They've won 4, drawn 2, and lost just once, which was in the build-up to the 2010 World Cup. Both of our last 2 results against them in September 2012 and September 2013 were both draws. But of course, it's a completely different side to now. I don't think any players are still around from that 2013 period. I think Luke Shaw went to the 2014 World Cup, but I don't think Harry Kane did from memory. So completely different squad as it is. But yeah, I'm feeling fairly confident for this one. But whilst respecting Ukraine at the same time. Henry, it's time for a score prediction. The last time we did this, you correctly predicted Belgium to beat Portugal. So what do you think this time?
Oh, did I? Oh, good.
You and McCubs both did, yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was trying to think when the last time England played Ukraine. So yeah, it's going to be quite a fresh affair for both. I can't see anything more than oh god, I hate saying it. I'll have to touch wood as I say it. An England victory. So I'm going to go for 3-0. But just quickly, I'd like to dispel a rumour, this myth that I hate Chelsea players, which I saw everyone in the
building some traction.
I genuinely do. I love Mason Mount. I think Mount's class, but I just think certainly this isolation period may have tripped up his game time in this tournament so far. I think we're going to see Henderson play because Rice and Phillips are both on yellow cards.
That's a good point. As is Maguire and Foden, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a few changes in the squad there. I think Henderson will play. Maybe we'll see Bellingham a little bit. But I would like to see Grealish start. I think he's, only played 116 minutes. I think 2 assists, most fouls drawn by an England player. I think Grealish deserves his moment to really go out of defence. And I'd like to see a Sancho or, like you say, a Saka just really get at the Ukrainian defenders and see what can happen there. But also for Ukraine perspective, everything the country's been through since they essentially hosted the Euros, from their perspective, I think this is brilliant how they're doing at this tournament. But yeah, an England victory, a bit of flair, and I love Mason Mount. Let me make that.
Yeah, and they've got Shevchenko looking so suave on the touchline as well, which is just a little bonus as well. McCubs, Henry's going 3-0. What do you see in your mystic ball?
I was actually going to... I think I'm going to say... God, I feel like I'm getting overconfident as well. I'm going to say 3-1. I think there will be a goal in it. We can't keep a clean sheet forever.
Fair. I'm just going 2-0. I don't think it will be a walkover by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it will be sort of like the Croatia game where England were clearly the better side. We didn't really see that as convincingly against Scotland or the Czech Republic or against Germany, which I actually thought was a pretty even game. And aside for that final 20 minutes where England really came into it, Germany had a number of good opportunities as well. So it could have been very, very different. But I thought they were two pretty evenly matched teams. But guys, we want your score predictions for the big one on Saturday. And why not tell us your predictions for the rest of the games? Mainly focus on Belgium-Italy as well, because that's set to be an absolute cracker. Wish we could have previewed that one as well, but it's it's starting in a matter of hours, so it probably doesn't make too much sense. And that's all we've got time for on today's show. I'm afraid we're not doing any quick fire questions because I'm scooting off to go shoot Sunday Vibes now, and these guys have got to get back to scripts and edits. But this is just a final reminder about Manscaped. So you can get 20% off and free shipping using the code EuroFootballDaily at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code EuroFootballDaily. As we said earlier, the product is amazing. the Lawnmower 3000, the ball toner, the ball deodorant. Maybe cop yourself a pair of boxers as well. Get the cologne in and then we can smell the same. It will be a great vibe. So yeah, enjoy the Manscaped products. Use the code EuroFootballDaily and get involved. McCubs, if they've enjoyed this episode, what should they go and watch now?
They should go and watch... go and watch the winners and losers, where we went a bit more... Joe and Chris went a bit more in depth on the England-Germany game. Also discussed the Jadon Sancho to United move. Go and check out our top 10s from this week. We did top 10 most disappointing players at the Euros. I think most of them have held up this week, aside from perhaps Harry Kane finally got his first goal. Go check that out. Go and check out our explains. We've done a number of them over the Euros. We got one on Jack Grealish on FD. We've got one on North Macedonia. If you want to kind of go back and kind of relive their kind of route to the finals. Obviously, it feels kind of a little bit out of date now, but like they still, still one of the greatest stories of this Euros is them being there in the first place. So yeah, go and check out all of that stuff. We've got one on the away goals rule, which I believe is coming out this weekend. Is it on Football Daily as well? Written by our very own Henry Hill. So, stay tuned for that as well.
Nice. Are you looking forward to the release of that video, Henry?
I was going to say, McCubs, leave me one thing.
And I always go overboard on these things.
Listen, edited by Danny, so it's always going to be great video. Really interesting. There's more to it than meets the eye. We take a look at kind of how football's really come along from a sort of an infrastructure perspective. And there's also, we take a little trip down memory lane to the old golden goal rules. Just look at some old FIFA UEFA rules which came and went and why that would happen. So yeah, Dougie, I know you're not for it. I think it's personally a good idea, but it is an interesting argument either way. So go check out what you think about the away goal rule.
Fair. Well, I've been left with absolute egg on my face criticising extra time. It's been awesome in this tournament so far. But generally, as a rule, I do find it quite boring in the Champions League. But we'll see what happens. Guys, thank you so much for watching Continental Club for another week. We'll catch you next Friday. Look after yourself. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time. Bye.